Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Nonprofit Enthusiast Live. I'm your host, Lasheena Williams, and I'm so excited to be here as we close out this year with the topic of fund development and year-end planning. I can't believe that we are almost in 2024, y'all. So I am so excited for this topic. Today we have special guest back on with us, Robert Jones, and I'm gonna bring Robert up and one thing I do want to say before I bring Robert up is our next few guests are all money, money, money in the sense of they are doing something in the area of money when it comes to nonprofit, whether it's accounting, which you'll get to meet Robert in a few seconds, grant writing, fundraising, all types of different areas of money, money, money in nonprofit. So I encourage you to tune in, drop your questions. There's a question box in the group. If you have any questions throughout the month, go ahead and drop them in there. I'll be taking a look at it after before each session so that we can ask questions that you may have to the guests. All right. So I'm going to bring up Robert. Hey, Robert, how are you?
I am doing okay. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
So, if you don't mind, for those guests who have not got to meet you yet, just talking a little bit about yourself and how you entered the nonprofit arena.
Okay. So thank you so much. I'm Robert Jones from Chicago, born and raised. I got into this space after I graduated college. I was working at Ernst& and Young, and I started in you have to do a rotation in different departments. And when I got to the tax exempt group, nonprofit groups, basically, I fell in love with it. And so because I love what nonprofits do, and I know it furthers, it helps with various programs and things of that nature. And I just fell in love with it. And so I've been doing this for about 13 years. After I left Ernst& and Young, I went to a family office and kind of led their charitable group. And then I went to a bank and did the same, a large bank. And then about 4.5 years ago, I decided I can start my own firm. And so
Okay.
I've been doing that since then.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your firm and how you support nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, good question. So we help with the daily bookkeeping, accounting needs. We also assist with tax compliance. So we make sure um, you get your 990 completed or your 990 PF. We make sure we handle that. If you have grants, especially grants that come from the government, if you want us to kind of manage those grants, we can do that as well. So that's
Awesome.
in a nutshell. That's pretty much what we do.
Awesome. So as we prepare to wrap up this year, for some it's just the calendar year. For
Mhm.
other nonprofits, it might actually be the end of the fiscal year. What are some tips that you have for those listening?
From the accounting perspective, right? So if you have an accountant, you want to make sure that he or she is giving you your yearly report by the middle of January, making sure everything is kind of look in good order. So maybe you can just kind of call them and say, hey, could you just kind of review our reports to make sure they're kind of clean and closed for the year. That's a really, really important tip. The other thing is the budgeting piece of it. Hopefully, I'm not jumping ahead, but the budgeting piece, right?
Oh,
So
go
some of
ahead.
those
Mhm.
items that's really important. The budget, technically, if you're a year in of 12/31, you should have had it done a couple of months ago, your 2024 budget. But if not,
Mhm.
that's okay. It's no big deal. However, if that's completed, you now have a vision and a goal to set. And that's really going to help you starting January 1 to get, especially to get revenue goals up. So I would definitely say get with your accountant, have a very heart to heart conversation about the numbers, and to see how you all can work together to get to that common goal.
Awesome. So, you talked about yearly report, requesting that from your accountant, by mid-January. So, from the nonprofit side, what should, let's say, an executive director or, once you receive these reports, what are some things that you should be looking for?
Oh, good question. So I'll tell you what's a really good thing to look at. Once you receive the report, also ask the accountant for the prior year report, and they can actually show you
Okay.
comparison to see how you did over the last 2 years, and that will kind of give you a visual of, oh, I probably need to slow down in Uber rides, or
Yeah.
I need to increase in this or decrease in that. That those types of reports really are helpful. So the executive director getting together with executive director, the treasurer, maybe a board treasurer, those items uh, will really ensure that the organization and the accountant is working together. But that really does ensure. I'm trying to think of the word, like more of a solid base, more of a
Hmm.
solid base, and also more of um, a way of kind of keeping things in line. Because a lot of times
Hmm.
we're just, we're busy. Well, you all are busy with the daily needs of the nonprofit. So, you're just working it. And, but with the accountant and the treasurer, you can at least kind of like pull the reins back on folks and go, okay, wait a minute. You're spending too much or you're not spending enough,
Hmm.
actually.
Love it. Okay, so now you have this report mid-January with, from you're looking at it with your treasurer, your accountant, trying to see how you're doing in forecasting for the upcoming year. And let's say if your organization, you've already set your budget and you've already had your budget approved, but through this process you realize that, oh my gosh, there we have to make some tweaks. This isn't realistic. What are some recommendations that you have for organization then? Or do you recommend that they pull this? It's kind of hard, right, to pull the year-end report before the year actually ends if it's the end of your fiscal year.
Yeah.
But anyways, what recommendations that do you have?
So good, that's a good question. So you can at least pull the report as of November 30th, right?
Hmm.
You can even pull it as of today
Hmm.
if the items are categorized already. Um, so that part is not very difficult to do.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. Okay, and then any other tips that you have? And I know the theme is fund development and year-end planning. Any other tips you have with any of those areas?
Yeah, I'll tell you this: with having accurate accounting records, you're able to go after, private funding. Now,
Hmm.
private foundations technically have to give away a certain percentage to nonprofits, 501(c)(3)s, supporting
Hmm.
organizations. So, with that being the case, the technical only requirement that they have is that you are an official 501(c)(3). Now, of
Hmm.
course, you got these large family foundations. They ask for everything. They want, what you doing with your program, what you doing, right? They technically don't have to ask for all of that,
Hmm.
but they do. They do. And so, because they do all of that, make sure you have a packet ready. Um,
Hmm.
Most of them ask the same questions from one family foundation to the next. So you don't have to always start off fresh every time you look at a new
Hmm.
application. You can
Hmm.
always copy from the last one. So having a list of those in your area, family
Hmm.
foundations, and then say, okay, let me send an introductory email to them. Find out, do they even support your type of organization? Don't just
Hmm.
shoot in the dark with it. Do a little homework and find out if you're the right fit for them.
Love it. And what are some ways you think, or can you share, like for nonprofits to be able to find foundations in their area?
Oh, yeah, good. So if you go on the IRS website, you can actually pull up
Hmm.
for free. You can actually pull up family foundations in your area. So, for example, you go to the charities, you click on charities, then you click on tax
Hmm.
exempt, and then there's a filter situation, right? So if you
Mhm.
put in, let's say like you live in Florida, so you put in
Mhm.
Florida, and let's say you want to find some in Orlando, just Orlando.
Mhm.
You can type in a city, Orlando. In the search, you just put family,
Mhm.
or you
Mm.
put the word, if you put the word foundation, you may pull up supporting organizations too. But if you put the word
Mhm.
family, then you'll see the list in your
Love it.
area. Because that really helps. Um,
Yeah.
going local helps more so than looking for somebody in California when you're all the way in Florida. So
I love that. Love that. And a very easy and no cost way to
yeah, no,
find those
yeah,
foundations in your area. That
yeah,
is awesome. And I love what you said about just kind of like doing introductory, letting them know like you're here. And then also a lot of times you'll find a lot of those foundations at different events as well.
true.
Or involved in different chambers and so forth, where you can actually meet a person. So that's definitely something worth looking into as you build relationships and look at these foundations. And the other thing that I love with you recommending foundations is sometimes we miss looking at foundations as nonprofits when
Mhm,
you're right. Like a lot of the requirements typically is not as intense as some other
mhm.
funders, I should say.
Yeah, we know it's
um, yeah, they really allow you to do the work, and because for some grants, you spend a lot of time monitoring and evaluating where you don't get as much time to do the direct services, where these foundations, a lot of them allow that to happen. Awesome. Um, anything else?
yeah. I want to build on the relationship piece a little bit, if that's okay,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
feel that um, this is still their money. Always remember that,
Hmm.
and they could
Hmm.
technically give it to their friends, nonprofits, right? So you always got to
Hmm.
keep that in mind with people who have family foundations. So you mentioned the word relationships, building relationships,
Hmm.
attending
Hmm.
certain, being in certain circles, right? Could
Hmm.
really help. So maybe the first time you send that introductory email, they may not respond. Maybe they respond the second time. Maybe you find out they're hosting some kind of event or whatever. Try to get in the door to those events
Hmm.
and bring up your name again. And persistence is there's nothing negative about being persistent, to be honest.
Right.
So keep that in mind too. So it takes work. Keep in mind you're asking someone for money. So
Yes.
imagine, I always use this example like when I was a kid and I would ask my parents for money. And the first thing they
Hmm.
would say is, "Why do you need it?" They never just go, "Here you go," right? They go, "Why do you need it?"
Yep.
And then you give the reason, and then they try to figure out. I don't think you need that much then, right? So it's the same concept. And you're asking for more than what I was asking for. Okay, so just
Yep.
keep that.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And even with us in our personal lives, if someone come to us and say, "Hey, can I borrow this or can I
Hmm.
have this?" We're going to start asking questions.
Oh
If they
yeah.
just said like, "Hey, can I get $5,000?" is the likelihood of just saying okay without saying, like you said, why, or just curious, what's your plans with this,
Right.
is very slim. So I definitely, yeah, get that. Yeah, we have to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Love it. These are good. So we talked about making sure that you get your yearly report from your accountant. We talked about budgeting, having accurate accounting records throughout the year, taking a look at family foundations, and you shared a free way to look at family
Mhm.
foundations in your area, and also building relationships with these foundations as well. What about, so for nonprofits, and I always, I feel like every time you come on, I bring this up. For nonprofits who have not seen the value, or not, I don't want to say see the value, is more over, limited resources. You got limited resources. You may not have the funding. You're probably an entire volunteer um, team or staff. Um, but can you talk about some of the reasons why they still should consider having some sort of accounting and bookkeeping support for their organization.
That's a good question. So one of the things that you, as like one of my clients, and
Yep.
even a couple, one of the things you've expressed is that you don't have to worry about it.
Hmm.
There's still a little work on your end, as you know, that you have to do,
Hmm.
but you don't have to worry about things. That's the
Hmm.
last thing you want to worry about is if you have financial records.
Hmm.
Um, and so I feel that once an organization, even when an organization first start, if you're in
Hmm.
the very beginning stages, you haven't even applied for the 501c3,
Hmm.
start calling some accountants to see how much you need to have so that you won't become like kind of like a sticker shock
Yeah.
after you get your bank account open and things of that nature. Uh,
Yep.
Start talking to some and just get an idea of what it costs monthly so that you can be prepared. But I'm not saying this because I want your business. I'm saying it because I believe people who have a business need an accountant and need someone to handle the taxes. Unless you know how to do it yourself. Uh, but
Hmm.
even for myself, I know I do my own accounting for my business. And we have a family foundation as well. So I do the accounting for that. I do the taxes for it too,
Hmm.
of course. But when it comes to my for-profit business, I don't do my own taxes.
Mm.
When I have
Hmm.
a question about something I don't know, I call the accountant. I don't even worry about it.
Yep.
I have enough to worry about, so I don't want to worry about something
Right.
that's out of my control, right? So yeah, just something to keep in mind that it's the accountant also can be. You know what? You want to find someone who is not just plugging the numbers for you and go, okay,
Hmm.
here's your report, leave me alone. But maybe someone who you
Hmm.
have a nice relationship with and you can call and email and the person kind of guide you through things.
Hmm.
You want to definitely find someone like that.
Love it. Yeah, and I can say because I remember, Robert, when we did start working together, our organization was at a pretty much at a point of like, if we don't get an accountant, this is not going to work. In the sense of I was doing all the bookkeeping, and I don't have no formal, yeah. When you do your education nonprofit, they give you probably one course in finances, and that's it. You know what I mean? So it's not nothing official. It's just enough to kind of get by, and I knew we needed an accountant in order to be able to grow our organization. At that time, I believe we were majority volunteers. We may have had like one or two contractors. Um, and then remember once you came on, first and foremost, that freed me up. I did not have to worry about our numbers or worry about like, is this in, is this out, whatever. I didn't have to worry about that. Of course, there's still responsibilities that we have as an executive director, or even as a board, when it comes to our numbers with our organization. So the accountant does not do that all. So we have to remember that. But yeah, I'll say that, because sometimes for some organizations they hire accountants or some sort of accounting support and think that they're supposed to do everything. And no, we still have our responsibilities as well when it comes to monitoring, the numbers and so forth. But with it, I feel like our organization has grown tremendously. Now we have employees, and we're continuing to add employees to the organization. And I really don't feel like this would be possible if I was still managing the books, period. Like, especially where we are now and all the different pieces. It's not just one layer and very straight. Like, it's all these different layers to it. I'm like, I am so glad back then, we went ahead and moved forward, and the board was all for it and getting the accountant on board, because it has been wonderful for us, and especially for us to step out of the numbers. I think it's a good
Mm.
thing for us to step out and really be able to kind of, when we're looking at it, we're looking more strategically, and versus trying to put this here, put that there. By the time you do all that, you're burnt out. You can't make clear decisions for your
That's true.
organization, or yeah, you get caught in the numbers. So I really do see the value of having accountant on board, and grateful for you for supporting us
Okay,
along the way. Yeah, but I
great,
really do see the values for organizations.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. You.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I definitely want, like others tuning in because especially because we do have a lot of nonprofits in the group that are just starting out. It might just be them or they may have a small team. I just really think it's important to have this in mind, thinking about, okay, what are we going to do about our numbers? And I love that you said, even if you feel you're not ready right now, go ahead and research. Go ahead and find out the cost so that you will be ready. You know how much you need to bring in order to
Right.
get to that place so you can, focus on some other things. There are certain things in a nonprofit that I feel is like I guess it's like that cross between that well, first and foremost, a nonprofit is a business, but that cross between that for-profit mindset and a nonprofit mindset. There are certain things when you invest in, you are going to get a return on investment and I feel like in the sense of like if you invest in accounting, a good grant writer, good fundraisers, those type of things. Yeah, you might not see it right then and there, but along the way, you'll get those big hits and things starting to come in to help boost your organization. So I feel that accounting is one of those infrastructure things because that's something that nonprofit enthusiasts we constantly are talking about. We work on the things that's under the surface. When it comes to the iceberg, we're the stuff that builds the strong. We're the under the surface, and accounting, I believe, is right there under the surface. To build a strong nonprofit, you have to have your numbers in order because if you're going after a grant, they want to see your numbers. If you're going after even your donor, your public donors, when they donate funds, they can ask you as a public charity to see your numbers, so there's different things and reasons why I believe, it's important for us to lay that foundation and consider what does that look like if we don't have some sort of accounting support in house with our nonprofit.
Yeah, one of the things, just to piggyback a little bit, one of the things I see a lot on grant applications is that they'll ask the question, what what percentage of your expenses are program related? And most people
Mm-hmm.
don't know the answer to that question. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't have an accountant, you're never going to know the answer to that question. um,
Yep.
so it's not the technical answer is not how much you have spent on expenses or what were your expenses the
Mm-hmm.
last year. That's not the question because that's
Mm-hmm.
just the total. But in the nonprofit world, expenses are they're broken down into three categories:
Mm-hmm.
program management and fundraising. So when someone's asking what percentage is program, imagine you answering that incorrectly. Let's say
Yep.
you put 10% because you're just kind of guessing. So what you're telling them is that every dollar you spent, only 10% went to the program. So imagine you put that answer. That might be a reason why you're not getting funded. Because as a person who has a family foundation, if I see an application like that, there's no way I'm giving them funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
But 88%, that's pretty accurate, right? Or pretty precise. And they show me a
Mm-hmm.
report
Mm-hmm.
to go with it. I'm like, no, that gets my wheels kind of turning in that way. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's really good. And one of the things um you just like as a nonprofit and as a past funder, I should say, if you put something on paper, be ready to back it up. Because
Yeah,
there has been times that we've received applications and we'll have a follow-up question to say, hey, we see that you put, I don't know, 10%. And who knows, you have guessed it, or can you provide us a breakdown for how this falls, what the remaining 90%. So just be ready whenever you submit something and put it on paper, be ready to back it up. I do not like if you have to guess, then you might not want to submit the application.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep. So Robert, before I let you go, and I was sharing earlier that a lot of our guests, interestingly, for the next few sessions are like somehow connected to money, money, money in nonprofit. And then I know we talked about your accounting firm and you brought up your family foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about your family foundation?
Yeah, so I sit on a board of a large organization in Chicago or Evanston, technically, where I used to live. Um, So I chair that board. So a lot of our giving, of course, is toward early childhood education. We love that. Even though we don't have children, we love early childhood education. We give to
Mm-hmm.
that. We also give to various up and coming organizations. Um, so it just depends how a person could
Mm-hmm.
ask and reach out about it, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that's our thinking in their mind. You can reach out. You can reach out to me via email. That's a start. I'll say that. So, but it just depends on the program. Food
Mm-hmm.
insecurity. We've donated to organizations
Mm-hmm.
like that before. So it just depends.
Awesome. 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 Thank you for that. All right. Anything else before we close out? Not only close out this session for a lot of organizations, we closing out the year. Anything else that you want to share as we go
I,
into this new
okay.
year?
Yeah. So one thing I'll close out with that kind of goes into next year a little bit. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's 1099 season. So all of those contractors you
Mm-hmm.
paid
Mm-hmm.
this year, they're going to need a 1099 from your organization. That now I'll tell you why that's super important, because if you don't submit those, trust me when I tell you the IRS knows you paid individuals. Please know that. Please do not think that they know exactly what you paid them. I know that for a fact.
Mm-hmm.
So they're expecting a 1099 to go to those people. So if you don't have it, if you're not sending those out, that's going to be a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
But as you close out 2024, I would say make sure that budget is intact and have a goal. Start working on January 2nd, happen on January 1st. You got like me. So so come January 2nd, be ready. I'll definitely say that. Be ready.
Love it. All right. Yeah. So enjoy these next few days is what I
Right.
hear. Because come January 2nd, back to work 2024. And I know this season
Right.
is just kind of just that season where either you're going really hard or you're kind of taking that time to kind of refresh. And it is good to kind of take that time for
Mhm.
yourself. And I'm saying personally to just kind of regroup and get ready for what's ahead for the new year. So get ready for 2024. Thank you so much, Robert, for
Oh,
coming on and sharing such wonderful tips. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm definitely hoping you'll come back and join us in 2024 for some more sessions. And just want to thank you again.
thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, everyone. So we will see you in 2024 next week.
That's right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Yeah.